Sentinel Mindset.
Should security qualify as first responders? We're going to be looking at today at legislation that is trying to pass called Bill S233. With me today, I have our chairman of the SGAO, the Security Guard Association of Ontario, Paul Carson. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you, Constantine.
Amazing. And I have with me also Steve Summerville, our vice president, and Stay Safe extraordinaire. How are you doing today?
Doing great, sir. How are you?
Amazing, amazing. Good. Okay, so there was a recent video, Paul, that you posted on LinkedIn from security responders. Before we go deep in, I think the audience needs to get a good foundation of what we're going to talk about today. Why don't we watch that video right now?
Last 2 months, the federal government has moved forward with new legislation to increase penalties for people who assault first responders and healthcare workers while they're on duty. One of these changes, Bill S233, passed the Senate in late October. It amends the criminal code so that if someone is convicted of assault against a first responder or health service provider, the court must treat it as an aggravating factor at sentencing. Similar wording is also included in the federal government's wider Bail and Sentencing Reform Act announced this fall. However, the legislation does not define exactly who qualifies as a first responder. In parliamentary debates and legal summaries, the term mainly refers to police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and emergency medical personnel. Private security guards are not specifically included. This comes at the same time that security guards across Canada respond to overdoses, deal with assaults, knives, bear spray, replica firearms, provide emergency first aid before police or paramedics arrive on the scene, and in many cases are the first person to arrive in malls, hospitals, shelters, transit, and residential buildings. Some provinces, including Alberta and Manitoba, have said publicly that violence against frontline personnel is rising, but there is currently no federal or provincial law that recognize licensed security guards as first responders or provide enhanced sentencing protection for assaults against them. Supporters of the legislation say it's a step in the right direction to protect those who serve the public, but within the security industry it has also raised questions. Should security guards, who are increasingly either already on scene or the first on scene, be formally recognized under the law as a responder as well? As of today, there's no legislation in Canada that grants security personnel first responder status and no federal definition that includes them. This will continue to be an evolving discussion as court cases, violence against guards, and frontline responsibilities increase.
Okay, so let's open up the floor. Should security guards be qualified as first responders? Let's go.
Mr. Carson.
Always over to me, eh? Well, first of all, I want to thank this guy. I don't know who he is and never met this guy before, but he's advocating for the safety of our security guards. I think that's an important distinction to be made. Anybody who lends their voice to this issue needs to be commended. And yes, they should be recognized as first responders. They sit in situ. They're responsible. They are intervention capable. They are called upon to provide intervention when required. They have arrested mom, the milkman, whomever, and they've also arrested terrorists and murderers, serial murderers. So they should be recognized.
Okay, good. Steve, what's your view on that?
I have to agree with Paul here. My issues or concerns are that security are often where we gather, where we collectively gather as a community, all events, bars, pubs, taverns, social interaction. Often the first response we have when we're exposed to trouble, healthcare issues, as well, is our security provision. They're also an occupier, as per the Occupier Liability Act in this province of Ontario. So there's a duty of care to provide protection to people who enter your facility, whether you pay a fee or not. What protection is there for the people who are protecting you? Who's protecting the protector?
Okay. I want to read you guys a little quote here by an MPP in Parliament. And here's what he says. He says, "Our brave men and women put on their uniforms every day to serve our communities. They run towards danger. They run into burning buildings. They run towards bullets. They hold our hand as we take our last breath. whether they are a nurse, a firefighter, a paramedic, or correctional officer. By the way, there's nothing else after that. They are facing unprecedented levels of violence against them. How far have we fallen where it's okay to attack a nurse as she takes her temperature? How far have we fallen where it's okay to attack the paramedic as he administers first aid? Okay, and it ends there, right? So security is not even on the forefront here whatsoever.
They don't think about it, but I mean, it's interesting to note that he talks specifically about nurses and paramedics. Security regularly intervenes on behalf of nurses across this province, and ONA is quite litigious in relation to their clan of or their cohort of nurses related to us. If we don't do our jobs, ONA will, end up suing us if we don't. That's a real possibility, and the fact that we're not even considered in the totality of this circle is ridiculous.
So let me ask the question. Steve, maybe I'll ask you first. Why do you think we're not even added on this?
Great question. I'm not certain what the genesis is behind the implementation of this new act. It's had third reading. Likely with the majority government, it's not going to have any opposition. It's going to go through. Maybe as we're sitting here filming this podcast in mid-November, perhaps before Christmas, before the end of this year. But I would like to perhaps naively assume that this is just an oversight without any real thought thinking as to who that designation or description of first responder should be, or though it's an admission to not recognize the validity of what a lot of good men and women out there do to protect others.
Okay, no, listen, that's valid. Look, as an agency owner, we've had our fair share of assaults on our people.
Yes, sir.
And I know, Steve, you've been exposed to that as well.
Yes, sir.
And Paul, I can only assume that you're aware of agencies that have also had guards assaulted on a regular basis.
Listen, it's what we do every day.
Right.
Right. We have assaults, we have arrests, this happens every day. It's nothing new. It would be nothing new to any agency.
Right. So, like, again, for me, kind of getting down to it, and I asked Steve this, like, why do we think we don't have it? I'm asking you from your perspective, Paul, like, why do you think that we are not recognized? I mean, you've been also very vocal on deaths that happen.
Yes.
About 2 years ago, where a Pickering Casino security guard
Michael Ferdinand
was killed. Yeah, and I remember that was a very, very hot piece there. I don't know. It almost looks like nobody cares.
Well, Michael isn't the first security guard killed in the line of duty, and he certainly hasn't been the last. Mm-hmm. So it boggles my mind as to why people aren't seeing what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. The Ministry of Labor does not investigate security guard deaths, violent deaths, criminal deaths. What they do is they abdicate their responsibility over to the local police force. If you talk to the local police force, their job is to find the bad guys. So they don't care what the gap is in between how the security guard ended up on this day, on this job, doing what he was doing, and what the training was in relation to that. Sometimes it wouldn't matter, but sometimes it does. And if it's one life that's saved, that's all we're trying to accomplish here. Mm-hmm. But we're trying to make the industry better, and it doesn't seem like
safer.
And safer. Well, better and safer is...
That's fair.
Yeah. So, but it doesn't seem like anybody wants to listen. And that's the frustrating component of it. I don't think that anybody is being nefarious about this. I just don't think that they want to do extra work. Mm-hmm. And that's what it boils down to. If
I almost wish to engage my local MPP to sit down and say, is this on your radar? Does this not make ethically and morally? Does this not make sense? And if you wish to codify the performance or the role, security guard or security officer, however you want to frame it, in the lawful performance of the duty, Look at what they do. When there's somebody at our door, when there's somebody interfering with your safety, boom, they're the first ones there.
Absolutely.
And I would like to certainly think that any man or woman that puts himself for me, I like to try to have their back.
For sure. And that's all this is about. This
There you
isn't, for me, they're all my kids, right? I've grown up in this industry. I've been doing this for 40 years. When I started, there was nothing. There was no training whatsoever, right? And you kind of muddled your way through until such time as you figured out the path to go. And then somebody would offer you some type of training and this and that and the other thing. But when you're in it, you really don't understand that there's nothing behind it.
Right.
And I'm trying to make this industry better than I found it. And it wasn't great then, and it really hasn't improved too much since.
No.
Okay.
No. As we sit here, Paul and I are involved in a couple of upcoming coroner's inquests looking at the death of a citizen at the time under the care of healthcare staff and security intervention. But there has not been an inquest, to my knowledge, ever, where we've looked at the situational impact factors behind the death of a security officer or guard and what could have been possibly to prevent that death. And one of the first things I think a jury would have to consider would be training and provisions to make it extremely compelling for a court to recognize the validity of that role in the performance of the role in our community or culture. And with that, if you arbitrarily assault a security officer, and you should be paying a price other than slap on the wrist.
Okay. For people listening, if
So
we're
let me just
Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. I just want to add, Steve and I are involved in a legal matter. I can't really speak to those things right now because because of the position I hold within
Yes,
this.
yes.
So I'm under an NDA. I can't really offer my opinion
Yes, yeah.
at all.
Yes.
So I just want to make that clear.
Okay, no, for sure.
And that's why I offered no context.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
just simply said that we're at a review, a scrutiny from the community. But I've never known, as a segue, to say, why is that not happening with security provision?
Yeah.
The
Well-
industry and the amount of assaults and violence exposed to us, I also believe, is a bit of a pandemic.
So, and I've asked, so this is something that I can speak of. I have rang the doorbell of the coroner's office more times than I care to remember, asking for standing into inquest related to deaths of security guards. And the coroners, they have a mechanism to call inquests, and it's basically the five questions, right? And that's their doctrine. If the 5 questions have been answered, then they don't really need to look into this any further. And I respect that, but I don't think that that's right because of how it is that the death has been investigated in the first place. Because if you have a building that falls on top of you, you have a team of investigators from the Ministry of Labor coming down to understand why that building has fallen down on you. If you have a security guard that is in the depths of his duties, doing what he was supposed to be doing, and intervenes in a robbery, and subsequent to that either gets stabbed or shot and dies, the ministry abdicates the responsibility of that investigation over to the local police, and none of the information that would be cogent is captured. We miss this opportunity to learn lessons. And when we do that, all we're doing is repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again, which seems to me to be ridiculous. One of the issues that Michael had, he didn't have a bulletproof vest on.
Yeah, he had one available to him.
He did have
That's important.
And the employer allegedly didn't want him to wear it because he didn't like the look of it. And then after the shooting, the employer made certain statements to the widow about the efficacy and what would have happened even if he had the vest on. Well, I'd take that shot every day of the week. I would want that vest on if I was facing. But these are the things that we lose, and we're never going to learn that. Okay, And now vests are showing up all across casinos. I don't know if anybody is, but you know,
that. Yeah.
and that it took a death, right? It doesn't need to get to that point.
What would you think would be the reason why, so people can understand more listening to this, for this bill to even come into existence, to be passed forward, Bill S233, why do you think they even want to go there? Like, what's happening that we know of that they
Well,
run?
I think the unions are involved in this for sure.
Okay.
I think the paramedics unions, I think ONA, I think
QP.
Yeah, QP for sure would be involved in this, and rightfully so. I would want to protect my members as well. And although they're not my members, I want to protect them. And that's why we're having this conversation, right? We have the same voice at the ministry as the Spotted Owl Society of Dwight, Ontario. We don't have a voice. Why don't we have a voice?
Should the ministry be advocating on behalf of the industry?
I don't think that's the industry's role, and I think that we often think that more legislation is better or not as good, and the ministry is trying to do this balancing act of what is overreach, what isn't overreach, and whatnot. But this is a safety issue.
It is.
Clearly.
Right.
And if we're not willing to protect the people that we ask to go out every day and protect the people, that makes no sense to me.
These words I'm about to use, I think, describes that. That is not ethical, nor is it moral.
It's not.
It's honestly not. And I just don't even think, referring to even basic common sense, where that makes sense. I'm trying to understand a rationale behind why first responders doesn't include security. As I sit here, humbly in my 60s, I'm just trying to figure out this just does not make sense. And I'm trying to be as lucid as I can with my my confusion.
Yeah.
Right. What do you think would happen if security were added to this bill? What kind of things would happen on the guard facing element, and what do you think would happen in the industry?
That's a great question. The real answer to that is I'm not really sure. Would it? I don't think it would embolden our security to be any more engaging than they are, because they have to be front facing. So I don't think anything from a guard side stops anything. I think from a general public interaction perspective, if somebody knows that they're likely to face a bail hearing over an assault of a uniformed security guard, if they're assaulted, they perhaps take another look at what they're doing.
I mean, it's like almost thinking twice that you're not going to hit a cop, because that's not going to be a positive outcome for you.
Of course.
Right. So it's
But
that.
Right.
Firefighters, I don't know many people that are opposed to a firefighter. I mean, they have firefighter calendars that people
Of course.
frequently purchase. I can imagine a security calendar. We'd all be poster kids for that. But and paramedics, gotta love them. My little son's a paramedic, and it counts in how he's been able to save lives.
Yeah, for sure.
Respect. But this X over the security profession, I don't get it. The opportunity for a first responder to be included is security. They're there when you need them. You figure where you go, and usually when you turn for assistance, it's somebody procuring up the security role. And what support do they have? Now, yeah, there's situations you'd be charged with assault, like common assault, if you want, things whatever. But there needs to be a different layer, a different threshold. And it's almost like the profession itself is not deemed to be valid enough, just a personal commentary, valid enough to even consider being a part of that equation of first responder.
And there's a lot of issues that run deep within this industry, not the least of which is that our industry typically doesn't talk to each other, and it's not because they don't want to. It's just because they're scared to talk to anybody out within the industry, because they don't want trade secrets getting out, right? And I understand that, but the role of a security guard back in 1968 is markedly different than 2025.
So, Paul, let's touch upon that. I was born in 77. I have no idea what you're talking about. So tell me what that is, what that world used to look like.
So I was born in '68. So
Okay.
Steve, on the other hand, may know.
I was born in '59.
Okay.
You kids, you Utes.
All right.
And it's startling to know that when I was wearing uniform at Toronto Police, you were just born. That's
Yeah.
that's a
That's
level
crazy.
of awareness.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So the role of security back in the '80s was watchman.
Yes.
You would walk around with a D-Tex clock. You would go to your assigned route. You would click the paper or put the key into the clock, turn the key, and make a mark on a paper, and then continue to the next one, and then continue to the next one. And you were basically asset protection, essentially, right?
Was it more a respected profession?
I don't think it was more of a respected profession. I can remember, I can remember people making fun of security guards while I was working as a security guard.
Okay, sure.
And not because, not for anything, but the way in which movies and whatnot portray security guards,
Right.
because they're the wannabes of this world. Well, they're
Yes.
not the wannabes of this world anymore.
Right.
They actually do law enforcement functions every day.
Right.
So
There's movies too that make you references mall cops. I don't want to
Yeah.
say Paul Blart, but mall
Yes,
cops.
that's
And
right.
Unfortunately, that's a nasty mark. But when we see security professionals performing such a substantial role and offering that level of assistance, standing in front of violence, bringing people home safely, I just fail to understand how that's not being validated.
listen, December 24th, 2015, I was going home to do the final Christmas shopping with my wife. My tires hit the pavement of my driveway, and my phone rings. And on the other end is an account manager, the client rep from a major facility in the downtown core. And he says, "We've just had a machete attack, and it involves your guards." So I said, "I'm on my way."
Terrifying.
Right?
Wow.
I'm on my way. Well, how it involved my guards is my guards stopped this person, interdicted this gentleman, stripped him of his machete after he cut two people.
I think I know this story. This made news.
It did make news.
Yes. And the person got an award for this as well.
There was two of them.
Yes. Well, I'm aware of that.
And
And met this gentleman.
I could not feel more proud of those two individuals, but that's done every day.
Right.
In some which way, shape, or form, that's done every day. And the fact that we're still not recognized as first responders is unconscionable.
You would almost offer to consider requesting a podcast with a member MPP to ask them that specifically as a member of the community. Why not? Why is this not being discussed, and what's it take?
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Listen, I think this is a great podcast. I don't, I come on here and I'm recognized all the time because I've been on this podcast. Somebody says, "I've seen you on this podcast." So I know that it has reach. My wish is that this podcast goes, this particular fella's got 9,000 views. I want this podcast to have 9 million views. I want every security guard in this province and in this country to watch this podcast. I want them to reach out to their members of parliament. I want them to tell people that they're unhappy with the decisions that people are making on their behalfs. Right? I'm not asking for a rally. I'm just asking for a quiet sort of wave that helps direct what they're feeling out there. Right?
Change could be made by a simple text message, phone call to your local MP and say, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah, for sure.
No, that's good. Listen, like Paul, I think in order to evoke any sort of change, it has to start from the individual from within, right? It has to start. So I think collectively, I think, Steve, I heard you say earlier, there's 140,000 plus security guards in Ontario.
What's the current number, Paul?
It depends on who you believe.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay, so the ministry is oscillating around 150,000 right now.
Yeah.
We've gotten numbers as high as 183
Is that province-wide or countrywide?
province-wide.
Just Ontario.
So just Ontario. So we
It's seasonal.
outpace.
It is seasonal.
It is. So we outnumber the police about 7-1, 8-1.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and again, we have the same voice as the Spotted Owl Society of Dwight, Ontario.
Right.
Great
right,
organization.
Great
by the way.
organization.
Right.
But
Shout out to them as well.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. So look, I think a call to action
Yeah,
is kind of a best way we can end this, is that if you're somebody that wants to be recognized as a first responder, which you should be, this is your opportunity to put your voice out there, call your MPP. Now, very quickly, the Security Guard Association of Ontario, which you are a chair of,
Yep.
Would there be any potential or possibility that a petition can come from that? Because there's also a large body underneath that as well that could be communicated with to get more reach.
there's for sure we can do something from a grassroots level for sure and organize a petition. There's other organizations that could do that too. APSA would be one of them. I think that would come to mind. I think ACES as well would come to mind for me anyway. I think IHOS as another example would be an organization that could push that. Their guards face systemic assaults based on their code coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they run to that every day, and they face those people in crisis every day. And listen, I'm not trying to blame the people that are in crisis because they're having an episode, right?
Right.
But at the end, we still have to deal with the end results of these things, right?
Okay. So closing words. Steve, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm glad that this bill is in place, especially for our friends who, policing and ambulance, paramedics, fire. But I think there needs to be an inclusion, an additional area, especially when we probably security numbers outnumber all these groups collectively. And I think we need to, for some, get away from their own personal agenda and start taking a look at the welfare of the community that serves them.
Okay, awesome. I read an excerpt from an MPP. So, Paul, why don't you look into that camera in front of you and pretend that the MPP right now is listening to your voice for a change. What do you want to say to him?
So I don't believe that you believe that security shouldn't be considered first responders. I would say that you need to broaden the scope a little bit and take them into account when you're making statements like they're the ones that are there first, because we're the first responders. Security in a lot of times.
Okay, amazing. Guys, I want to thank you both for your time, for coming on the show. Paul, I want to thank you for starting this by posting it on LinkedIn.
I didn't start it. He started it. I want to thank him, and I don't know what his name is.
Okay, for the gentleman from First Responders YouTube channel, which we're going to put a backlink on, Thank you for putting that together.
For sure.
Thank you for highlighting him, Paul. Steve, thank you for what you had to say. And any last words before we close? I know Steve has those beautiful 2 words.
Until we meet again, stay safe.
All right, everybody. Have a great day and talk soon. Thank you for joining me in today's podcast. This podcast was created for protectors in the fields of law enforcement, executive protection, security, and anyone looking to level up their mindset. If you are learning from this podcast and you're enjoying it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Sentinel Mindset. That's a zero-cost way to support us. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast both on Spotify and Apple. And on both Spotify and Apple, you can leave us up to a 5-star review. If you have questions for me or comments about the podcast or guests you would like me to consider on the Sentinel Mindset, please post all comments on YouTube. I do read all the comments. Please also check out our sponsors, thearenatoronto.com. The Arena was created to help all those in the fields of law enforcement, security, and all that achieve their fitness goals. I want to thank our producer, Matthew Doyle, and creative supports, Jaslene Singh, who help me with this podcast every week. We value your feedback and are here to support you. Tune into the Sentinel Mindset every week where we look in the mirror to make real changes and explore what it takes to achieve greatness in your craft.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.